Retro Rebound. In today's video, got another review for you. Today, we're talking about Xenoblade Chronicles 3. The review embargo just lifted for this game, and I just want to shout out our editor for the channel, Lockmort. Originally, I was planning on posting this tomorrow. He's put in any extra work, and he's let it out today. So I'm happy to this review today, and the embargo's lifting, and interest is high. It's strictly because of him. Send him your love. With that, we're talking about Xenoblade Chronicles 3. This is important, not because it's just another Nintendo Switch review for us, but we've talked about a ton of JRPGs on the channel. I've never had a chance to talk about Xenoblade, which is a series that I have a history of disliking quite strongly. When I played Xenoblade Chronicles 2, between the voice acting, the combat not clicking at me, the world not really synchronizing with me, and then a ton of fan service, just like, you know what? Not for me. I'm out. See you later. So when Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was announced, I'll be honest, I didn't really care. As the trailer rolled out, though, I found myself quite enamored with this game. It looked more serious, mature, different, combat deep. Everything they were showing me looked like they were trying to win people like me over. I was very pleased from the outside looking in, so I went, okay, the plan is, let's play this game day one. eBay this copy leaked online alongside many others that plenty of content creators got their hands on, so I went, you know what? Sure, let's try it out. It came. So I put about 20 hours into it. That's nothing compared to the 130 to 150 hours I've seen reviewers input into it. This game has now been out for reviewers for over a month now, so I haven't had that opportunity to put that much time in. But the reason why I want to make a review of 20 hours is the fact that I'm 20 hours deep. It is significant for Xenoblade because, again, I strongly dislike this series. So the fact that I got past the 3-hour mark was crazy, and that I'm loving it at the 20-hour mark, that says a lot. So if you're new here, you're into Nintendo Switch reviews. We do review every single new release for the Switch. Also, if you're into nostalgia or retrospective content, onto the full book we do here. Again, this is drop that was talking about Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I want to start off with the story, of course. As always with our reviews, no spoilers, but this is what really grabbed hold of me. So, again, I have not played other Xenoblade Chronicles games to completion. I don't know how mature and serious they do get. I've heard excellent things, especially from Tales fans, because it seems like there's a connection between Falcom and Monolith, the developers of Xenoblade, where I know a lot of people have said, it's one of those JRPGs you just stick with and you'll be really rewarded. However, with Xenoblade Chronicles 3, it feels like they kind of ditched that mentality. You don't have to just stick with it, bro, then you'll like it. Off the get-go, this game is gripping. Why is that? I think it's because of the themes and the lore within the game. I find the world particularly gripping. So, the general concept is that you are born to fight, and in order to live, you must fight. So when people die, you're pretty much absorbing their energy through this thing called the flame clock, and you need to feed, and if you don't, you will starve. So everyone's being born literally to fight, and the crazy part is no one lives longer than 10 years on this planet. So everyone you're seeing is born, they fight, once they turn 10, they go through what's called a homecoming, and see you later, they're dead. And it's a world of just living and dying and fighting. And you're at the root of this mystery, trying to figure out, why is the world this way? Why can we only live 10 years? Why are we all fighting? What's the point of gaining energy? What's it all going to? And that is so particularly gripping because there's a lot of death, destruction, sadness. It's a sorrowful game to start things off. It's very serious, and one thing I really love is this game knows how to use silence really well. So during a lot of cutscenes, they'll cut the music. Normally, JRPGs are very big on themes and music just blaring constantly. And hey, as a big JRPG fan, I'm about that. But what I love about this game is the cinematics sometimes, like, they'll cut to a flashback and they'll cut back and they'll be like, Noah, are you there? And it's like the music just cuts. You're like, oh shit, I'm really into this right now. I just think the way they deliver these cutscenes are really good, and that's important because these cutscenes are long. These are long cutscenes, and sometimes they'll put Metal Gear Solid to shame. And I think that's an okay thing. This is a huge game. You could just tell when you're running around the world, there's some Final Fantasy XII energy here for dang sure. What a funny time it is to just finish playing Final Fantasy XII, a massive playthrough of that, to leap into this and feel the echoes of that game within Xenoblade Chronicles 3. We'll talk about the gameplay more later, but this is a massive game, and yes, a lot of its time is spent on its story. You'll also be playing the game a ton, but do expect when you sit down that they're going to be really having you sit down and focus on this story. And what I love more than anything is this story is about war. War is one of my favorite themes in video games, and it's two sides that directly oppose each other that end up being the party that binds together. So there's a bit of uneasiness. There's not that JRPG level, we're all best friends and we're going to take on God himself together. It's like we actually kind of don't like each other, but we have to learn to accept each other because we've been thrown into similar circumstances and we share a goal. So to me, the story has really grabbed me. And I think that's important because in the early going, I think for fans who have not liked the gameplay, it is a little bit slow, but the story had me invested enough where I was willing to wait it out. That's how good the world is. That's how good the concept is. And I'm happy the way they paced it because there's a lot of mechanics in Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and as someone who considers themselves a bit of an RPG, JRPG aficionado, I play a lot of them. I'd say I'm good at them. I'm not saying as a flex because I think that kind of stuff is weird, but I'm just saying I'd say I'm familiar with this genre quite well. And so when I was, taking some time to really read the tutorials, come to grips with the mechanics, I think this game will not get enough credit for how fantastically paced it is. Every little introduction to new mechanics and story beats is done so well, where most times they're synchronizing these things, like something happens in the story, so it unlocks this mechanic, and it takes a moment to teach it to you, but it's done, again, in an organic way, where I feel like I've really gelled with this game compared to past ones. So yeah, the start is really strong. I have a 10-hour rule in JRPGs, which is typically I feel they fall off after 10 hours. I feel like that's when you reach the point where they've sort of introduced you to everything, and now you're starting to get into the rhythm, settle in. Okay, where are we going next? Let's go over here. And they kind of just let you play the game. One of my shining examples of the 10-hour rule in JRPGs is Tales of Hearts are on Vita. I remember the first 10 hours of that game, gritty, hardcore. Oh my god, man, I was so into it. And then it just sort of takes its foot off the gas. What I love about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is it doesn't do that. And I think it's because, while the world is very interesting, it gradually transitions into a character-driven story. And it starts to focus on the main character, Noah, who's an off-seer. An off-seer is used to send the spirits of the dead off. See you later. And grant them peace, if you will. Grant their spirits peace. And he's doing this to heroes and villains alike, and it's kind of contentious within the group, and I find Noah to be an interesting protagonist. Yes, he's a bit of a do-gooder. I do find that a little familiar, but I like that there is a reason behind that. There's a reason behind everyone's actions here. So these characters are deep, and given the length of the game, I imagine they're only going to explore it more. But that's really all I had to say on the story. Let's talk about the gameplay, because this is where I struggled. I have no doubt that, for example, Xenoblade Chronicles 1 or 2 has excellent stories, but for me, the gameplay was what really shook me off. Because I've played games with, stories that had really fun gameplay. It's like, okay, cool, it's a video game. I'm here to have some fun at the end of the day. And I gotta say that what they did with this gameplay is awesome. So again,